So we're going to start talking about roots of real numbers. Make sure you take notes and come in with any questions on the video tomorrow. When we're looking at roots of real numbers, there's some notation we need to know and some vocabulary that's extremely important. So this square root sign is what we call a radical. The number under the square root sign, which would be 81 in this situation, would be the radicand. And the number on the outside is the index. So it is only a square root if there's a 2 as an index. And if there's a 2 as an index, it's understood that it is a square root, so we don't even write it. We would just leave it blank. So when we're going to simplify the fourth root of 81. So that means what number is multiplied 4 times together to get 81? To solve that, it would be 3. We'll talk more about evaluating these tomorrow in class. Alright, so make sure you have this chart in your notes. So the summary of roots. The nth root of b, so n is our index and b is our radicand. So if n, our index, is even, and b is greater than 0, so it's a positive number, there's a positive root and a negative root. If b is less than 0, which means it's negative, there's no real roots. So if you think about the square root of a negative number, there is no real roots, so we cannot have anything in there. Alright, if we're looking at b equal to 0, there's going to be one root, and it's going to be 0. Let's look at odd. So if the index was an odd number, so 3, 5, and b is greater than 0, so b is positive, there's one positive root and no negative roots. If b is negative, there's no positive roots and one negative root. If b is equal to 0, again, there's one root of equal to 0. So we're going to look at an example. So the positive or negative square root of 169 x to the 4th. So I know it's a square root because there's no index written, so we assume it's a 2. So we're going to look at this. There's two ways to look at this. We can write this as 13x squared, that entire thing squared. So when we take the square root of that, we're going to get 13x squared, positive or negative 13x squared. Or we could look at take the square root of 169, which gives us 13. Take the square root of x to the 4th. When we're using variables, we're going to divide the exponent, divide it by the index. So 4 divided by 2 is going to give us 2. So we have 13x squared as our answer. Alright, for the second one, we're going to take the square root of 8x minus 3 squared. So that entire thing is squared. So that when we're working with these, you can separate it into a squared. Or I can say my exponent here is 4. My index is 2. So my answer is going to be negative 8x minus 3 squared. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. And you would keep the negative on the outside. That only works as if the exponent is on the entire thing. Alright, let's do 2 more examples. So right here we're going to do the cubed root of 125, which is going to be 5. And we're going to do the x to the 6, the cube root of that. So 6 divided by 3 is going to give us 2. You could write this as 5x squared cubed, but either way, you're going to get the same answer. Alright, last one, we have negative m cubed. Since this is an odd index, we can do we can evaluate the negative here. So negative m to the cubed root, so 3 divided by 3 is going to be 1, and you keep the negative there. N to the 3rd, so 3 divided by 3 here again is going to be just n. So the cubed root of negative m cubed, n cubed, is just going to be negative mn. All right. Make sure you come in with any questions for tomorrow.